So we want to take this synced block, copy this link for the synced block, go back to the actual page, the one that is internal, and we want to paste that here. So we're kind of going upstream. Let's talk about client portals. A lot of you are probably trying to use Notion in some sort of client-centric way and are running into the issue of how to make a Notion dashboard that works for you, but then also works for your clients. And totally understand that this is a big hurdle and obstacle for you to figure out. And let me just start right from the front saying, I'm not going to show you a secret hidden way of doing granular database permissions. That's probably what everyone's telling you you need. I want to show you a creative way of setting up a client dashboard or a client portal, something that can help you manage your client relations, but then also give you a dashboard for your clients that they can see without mixing the internal and the external. Now, there are definitely a few different ways of doing client portals, so this is just one, but I have not seen anybody else do it this way, and I think it's a creative way to do client portals. So I want to show you how to do it, and I will show you actually how to build it from scratch, and we'll just book through it so that you can get started on seeing if this will help you in your Notion building. So we're looking back at Lunar HQ, this fake company going to the moon, and what I want to do is introduce the concept of basically working with clients. What if this was actually more of an agency helping other people get to space and they have clients that they're working with? So what we probably need, we do have this people database, but we probably need this concept of a company database, or I suppose a client database. So I'm creating this database, which assuming you probably have something like that if you're working with clients, where you have these database objects per client. So that's what we're going to use as kind of the main data object if it would load anytime soon. All right, so we're looking at this new database. We're going to turn this into clients. What does a client need? They definitely need to be a heart, right? All my clients, I hope you're watching this. So these are our clients, and let's just put in a few different ones, client. Actually, here's what we're gonna do. This is what I like to do for these showcases. We're gonna paste this down here, and then we're gonna ask AI, give me 5 examples of clients. All right, so I'm asking it to give me a few different client examples because I don't want to be creative. I want Notion to be creative for me, and this really doesn't matter too much. So we're going to use whatever Notion gives us if it works. All right, so we've got our 5 clients for the company. Let me just go back to the actual database now. And here is our list of clients for our company. So to create this client portal experience, what I want to do is now go into the template of these clients, and let's create a new one called new client. And here's how we're going to give ourselves the internal view and also the external view. So this is going to be the page that is created anytime I create a new client, assuming that we also want to include a client portal. So we've got this internal facing thing. We can start adding our properties. Maybe, for example, they have a financial value or some number that you really don't want to share either with them or with other clients, because you don't want to give somebody access to the database and then they'll be able to see all your other clients. That's obviously one of the big obstacles for creating this kind of experience. And so if you had deal value in dollars, and this one, we're in the space industry, so big deals. We don't necessarily want somebody from AstroX to see the deal value of SpaceForge. And so that's one aspect of why we want to not share the database with somebody. But let's say that these clients, have different deal values, and this is going to be starting to act like our CRM. And so these are our clients, we know their deal value, and we want to keep track of maybe some internal notes that we don't want even the client to see about themselves. And so that could be anything like just a simple, text description. And it was something like, internal notes. And we said, these guys were a pain, but we got the deal. Obviously, you don't want somebody from AstroX, if you're sharing just this AstroX page, you don't want to share just this AstroX page with the client, because then they can see all of the internal nodes. The one kind of bypass you can take advantage of is using related databases. And if they don't have access to the related database, then they won't see anything from that related database. However, you're starting to use relations just to show information, and it gets a little tedious. And so again, there's a few different ways to do this, and I want to show you a different way of doing it. So what I want to do is in this template, I'm going to show you kind of the basic, of course, however you want to structure your client dashboard, that's a different conversation, but I just want to show you the fundamental of how this works. So what we actually want beyond this is a page that is a subpage of the internal client page, and this is the client portal. So let's get something portal-y. I don't know why I always like this cloud, just seems very alien and ominous. This is our client portal, and we're going to add a synced block here. So in this synced block in particular, anything that is in this is what's going to be kind of transferred back and forth between the internal and the client facing. And so we could make, a really custom or just a really simple client portal here. This is really up to you and your process and what you need to handle your client relationships. But let's just say, we had key documents and we started adding, how to work with, what's our company's name? Lunar. How to work with Lunar Co. And we added some text here, and we started adding some more, formatting or things like that. We can add any amount of information here. Maybe, a database. This is where we can get kind of creative and use maybe something, like ideas. It's really whatever is pertinent for your clients. Obviously we want to keep this clean and organized, so I wouldn't actually just dump a bunch of text in there. So let's get rid of that. And we can even, you're not limited. We can copy this ideas database, come back to this one and do a linked view. So we're creating this dashboard view just for the client. So this is the client portal itself. And if you are already working with clients, I'm sure you have an idea of what would be useful to show your clients. So whatever you need to share with them, maybe it's, deadlines or deliverables, things like that, tickets that you want them to submit. That's what you want to include here and give them all of the things that you would want to give them in a client portal. So we want to take this synced block, copy this link for the synced block, go back to the actual page, the one that is internal, and we want to paste that here. So we're kind of going upstream. So we've got the internal client page here, and then we have another page that's a subpage. So we're taking advantage of the cascading permissions in Notion. And I'll explain that in just a second. We give them that client portal page. This is the one that we want to share with the client. We want to give them, maybe if you're up for it, full access or can comment or can edit content, whatever you need. Essentially, whatever you've allowed them in this page is what they'll have access to. They don't get upstream access to the client page like you do for that internal client. And even beyond, it's something you want to be aware of. They don't necessarily have to keep it within the sync block. They can add whatever they want here, or you can. Just know that the sync block is where we're going to essentially sync information between the internal and the external. So this is the external client portal. This is the synced block. This is the original. The original has to be here so that the client has access to it when you share it with them. But because you are the one that created the client page, which then has the subpage for the portal, you will automatically already have access to that subpage, thus giving you access to that original synced block. And so taking it upstream, it's not changing any sort of permissions for you. It's just kind of showing you a window into what's below. So you have the grand view, but the client has the kind of sub view, and they can only see this kind of segment of information. And so now this client page, we have both the, I like to put this maybe towards the bottom. We have this internal facing page where we can keep track of all things client related. And we're able to see not only internal information, which again, just like in the client one, we can kind of get the best of both worlds. And so if I type anything here, they still can't see it. It's only what I type in the synced block that will transfer between the two. And so when we invite a client, we now have the ability for them to edit something in here because they have access, because they have the original sync block, but we also have access. We can edit and we can maintain our own kind of above the board information bucket. We can still include stuff in the page body, just maybe make sure that, if you're going to do that, you keep it clear, like, client portal below, and we make it really clear that everything below this line is the client portal. You could maybe even house this in a callout block. Let's see, maybe the entire callout block is the client portal. Of course, that makes it interesting on the other side. So what that looks like is, what if we did this and we dropped in client portal, kind of experimenting as we go, but I think this could be cool. And it helps to kind of show you where the boundaries of this portal are, which I think will be the most important thing for you to be aware of if you are to go this route. So let's see, we can drop that there, kind of clean it up. We want to make sure that's not in there because that is separate. And now this could be a different approach. It's basically the same thing. We're using some aesthetics to kind of draw some boundaries. And this actually really highlights the importance of aesthetics in some ways. You want to use the components of Notion not only for data and keeping your data clean, but you are building your own software and framework, and visual cues are really important. So in this case, what I'm actually using the callout block for is really useful because now it's drawing this clear boundary. You notice if I take my mouse off of the block, you don't see that red outline, which signifies that that's the synced block. It's only when you hover over it that you see that. And so now what I can see without needing that feature of the red line around it is that this is the client portal. And when we jump into the actual client portal, of course, it's a little interesting because now we're seeing this block inside the client portal. So maybe you want to spice this up and change it up so it makes a little bit more intuitive sense. The client might be like, why is this like this? And you can explain why, or you don't have to. You could call this something else. You could even, keep this blank. And one trick is if you see this type something, which I hate, just do shift space, and that will give you a space without calling up the AI prompt. And then maybe we do a lightning bolt, which seems to be my go-to icon. So this is also another option. And now we're just kind of making use of that callout block without any sort of titling. And again, this is kind of going to be up to you. What I want to show you is the fundamentals of how this goes together, kind of that back-end view. In case you find this interesting and want to make use of it, I want to show you how to build it so that you can kind of take it and design it as your own. So let's do a quick rundown of what this looks like. Let's go all the way back to the client's database and let's actually apply this template. All right, so now that we've applied this to the template, what I want to show you is kind of a bit of a roadblock that is currently in the way. And the reason why I showed you the way that kind of doesn't work is because, frankly, in the last few months, I've seen some back and forth on the way synced blocks and templates interact. And so right now it's kind of an issue, and maybe in the future it's not an issue, and I would hope maybe it's not an issue. But again, it highlights this reason why this is kind of a bit of a manual creative way of dealing with client portals. And so there's a few different ways that you can deal with this. So here's my current problem. Because I built this in the template and I'm using a synced block that is within a subpage, essentially this page, Notion does not recognize it as, basically, it does not recognize it as a template. And so when I create a new client portal for a new client, it's syncing this particular box. And that's not what I want. I don't want every client to share this same box. I need a new synced block for every client. And so the way I would maybe solve that for today, if they never change the way synced blocks and templates work, the way I would maybe change that is hiding this, or I suppose packaging all of this in a button, and then every time you create a new client, we populate the page with that button. So let's work through that. Let's kind of transition this into that button approach and see if we can make it work so that we're not dealing with this problem, because right now this is not usable, but I think we can get it to a point where it is. So going back to the client template, this is where I want to kind of adjust some things, because if we have to do it from scratch for every client, that's not necessarily the best, although you can do it and it would work. I think maybe we can figure this out. All right, so the way to actually make this work in its current state with the way synced blocks and templates are acting, again, it takes a couple steps, and frankly, you know, if there was an easier way to do it, I think you would have already known it. But this is how we have to do it in this case, but I think the end result is actually really nice and potentially worth it for you. So now that we have this template, here's what I actually had to change. This is a big change. This client portal, in the template, I need to get rid of that sync block. I cannot start in the template for the clients, in the client's database. I cannot have that synced block starting in this client portal, because anytime I duplicate it, it's going to get linked to every client and it's not going to work. So in the new client template, here's where we are in clients. This is the client portal. We just need to make what the client portal should look like. And I like still including it in this box so that you know what's going to get synced and then what's not. So we could even do like, you know, synced portal. You could even, you know, just let them know that this is being synced between internal and external. So now what I want to do is, now that I've built that client portal, and again, that could also include, you know, if you're building out the template for your clients, whatever workflow and process you need for your clients, of course, build that in here, just showing you the bare minimum. We'll go back to the client database, and here's the workflow that you actually have to go through to make this work from your end. So we have a new client. We want to open it up and apply the template that we just created. It's going to look familiar. It's going to look like a blank page plus that just one little client portal. But again, if you have your own dashboard setup, that's up to you. That's how you want to build it. Not necessarily showing you the best client portal aesthetic or setup. I want to show you how to actually get this kind of two-way sync between the internal and external. So in this client portal, this is the one that you would have to open up and share with the client anyways. So you're going to open up this page. The one step you need to take is creating a sync block and then dragging this entire callout block into that sync block. So that is the first thing. You want to copy and sync that link, go upstream, and then paste it. I think that takes 5 seconds. So I think part of me hates that you have to rely on this manual process to set up this workflow. At the same time, these are the kind of workflows that I think are really telling for what kind of features we kind of should ask for and expect from Notion. These things that just kind of rely on this one little manual thing. Right now, it's just the fact that synced blocks are acting the way they are, and we're able to do something as big as client portals. So I think the payoff for allowing this kind of sync between the internal and external is totally worth it. And you can even set up, you know, your new client template in a way that leads whoever's using it in a way that helps them kind of realize what they're supposed to do. You should build out good standard operating procedures and documentation for how to do this kind of stuff. But for you, who I'm assuming is the Notion builder, I want to show you the breakdown of how it actually works and how to build it from a fundamental standpoint. So look at what we have. We have this client portal, which this is the one that we would share. So this would be, you know, Orbit Gen portal. So this is what you would share with the people at OrbitGen, and this is the original block, and this is also going upstream to the internal client page. And so now we have this kind of window into the place that we already have access to, so we already have permission cascading access to be able to edit this because it's in our workspace, but we're limiting what the client can do. And so no, this does not, again, this is not allowing, granular database permissions, which a lot of people want, and it would solve a lot of these use cases as well. But I think this is one interesting way that you can solve this problem of wanting to keep track of the client internally, but then also give them some sort of external portal and not have them in totally different areas where they don't really communicate. This is a great way. If you do work closely with a client, you can still, as a user, you're still going to one spot. You're going to the client page and you are able to manage things internally, and you're able to interact with the client who does not have access to your client pages, your other clients, and they do not have access to this maybe more sensitive internal information about them. The example was these people were a pain, but we got the deal. Maybe don't type that kind of stuff because you never know who's going to see it. But again, just to highlight the benefit of building in this way is that the people, as long as you added them correctly, you added them to this page right down here, they will not be able to see this stuff, but they will be able to interact here. And so it feels like you're kind of blending, you're kind of crossing the barrier in some way using these sync blocks. And so that is one way, and I think a really interesting way for how to manage clients and give them portals and still kind of give yourself this all-in-one space ability to manage your clients and their portals without having to get super complicated. You don't have to use automations. You don't have to rely on some sort of granular database permissioning. It gives you a happy medium while we await for more robust features from Notion that would allow more robust client portals. So I would love to know what you think and if you would use this for your clients. And maybe I missed something. Maybe there's a benefit or a drawback that I did not call out in this video. Help other people out. Let me know in the comments and call it out there, and we'll continue the discussion there. Of course, love that you are watching these videos. If you're not subscribed already, I would love if you would subscribe and follow along. We're doing weekly Notion content. I'm Josh Red. I'm a Notion certified consultant over at Notion State, and we help companies build out their Notion workspace so that they can operate under this singular source of truth, that the people that are at the company can do what they love without having to go find information, which seems to be the bane of every knowledge company out there. So by having systems in Notion, we're able to collaborate together and make the most of the talent we have in our companies. And so that's why I love what I do, and I love these little hacks. I love figuring them out and showcasing them to you, and hope that you find value out of them, whether you're a company or a solopreneur. Let me know what you think, and would love to connect with you further. You can find me over on Twitter at @TheJoshRed. And until the next video, that's it. We'll see you in the next video.